Hey, my name is Natalie, and I will be covering Puritanism in my oral presentation. So, what exactly is Puritanism? It's a religious reform within the Church of England. So, these Puritans wanted to find a new way of life. They wanted to have their own government, and they most importantly wanted to freely practice their religion. A little bit of background about them and their religion and how it came to be. It comes back to the teachings of Martin Luther and John Calvin, more heavily focused on John Calvin. The Church of England actually was established as a reform during this time, but many Puritans believed that it wasn't reformed enough. They wanted to sort of cleanse the church or purify it, which is where they get their name from. And because they were actually persecuted during this time, they established an agreement with the Virginia Company that allowed them to come to sail to the New World and start their own colony under the Mayflower Compact. So they actually came over in 1620 with William Bradford, which was their leader, and he sailed with 102 other Puritans. And something different from these sailors compared to others was that they came in families and complete families. It was not just young men looking to come to work. They didn't want to come to the New World to work. They wanted to come to the New World to have a new way of life. So they were under the Mayflower Compact. This granted the Puritans the ability to temporarily establish their own self-government until the company had permission from the Church of England to establish government for them. And a little fun fact about the Mayflower Compact, the original copy was actually lost. No one knows where or how, but first publications of it are dated back to William Bradford's of Plymouth Plantation. So how it relates to our course, they actually set many precedents for the foundation of the America. For example, the Mayflower Compact was seen as sort of a constitution at the time, and it set the foundation for a further constitution. They also had a way of government that many different individuals within the community had a say, so it was kind of representation within the colonies themselves. And they also established an educational and religious system for many of the children, so they were actually the first to establish an educational system. And this was extremely important because many of their citizens learned how to read and write, and they were heavily focused on literature, which is why we have so many great literature pieces from this era. We have worked alongside some of the famous Puritan literature pieces such as Anne Bradstreet's poems, stories of the Salem witch trials, and of course the journals of William Bradford and Edward Winslow. So some of their beliefs and principles, I would say their biggest principle is predestination. So they believe that God has everything scriptured out for you, and everything that happens for a reason. So they're heavily focused on this, and they believe that, if you're chosen, then you're chosen, and if you're not, then you're not. Another big ideal to them is absolute sovereignty. So they believe, again, that God does everything for a reason, and it's out of His power. So they came from England, and over there at the time they had been ruling in monarchs. So to put it in a different way, their monarch was not a person, their monarch was Jesus, and they lived for Him and only for Him. They believed in human depravity. They really focused on the story of Adam and Eve, and they believed that since they were sinners and they were the creation of God, the first creation of God, and they were sinners, that they thought everyone else was going to be sinners, and that's just what your life consisted of. You're going to sin, and it's just going to happen, and it's inevitable. Puritans were also very simple, and they believed in individualism. They wanted their relationship with God. They wanted each individuals to find their own relationship with Him. They wanted children to find their relationship with Him. They wanted males, females, little girls, little boys, everyone. They didn't discriminate, and they wanted to make sure that everyone found their way within God for themselves. think it's very important to understand Puritanism for our course because of all the important authors that have this culture, and of course if they have this culture they're going to express their culture in their writing, and if we know their culture and their beliefs and their backgrounds, then we can picture out how their life was and why they're writing in the specific way that they are writing. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know and I'll try to answer them all. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.